Welcome to another edition of World of Africa on WION The World is One. This week we talk about a war that hasn't gotten any attention internationally. I'm talking about Oromia, which surrounds Ethiopia's capital Addis Ababa, has seen clashes since 2018 between federal forces and the Oromo Liberation Army, or OLA, with peace talks failing to yield progress, and now the Red Cross is warning of devastating consequences on civilians. The show starts now. Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara has announced he will seek a fourth term leading the West African nation as tensions rise over the exclusion of many heavyweight opposition candidates. Earlier, he had been officially nominated by his ruling RHDP party as its candidate, but had not yet said if he would contest the October 25th election. He says he chose to run for the best interest of the West African nation. Here is our cover report from Abidjan.
With the country's most high-profile opposition politicians ruled ineligible, Alassane Ouattara is a clear front-runner. The 83-year-old president, who has led the country since 2011, declared his plan in a televised announcement.
After careful consideration and in good conscience, I am announcing to you today that I have decided to be a candidate for the presidential election on October 25th, 2025.
Ouattara won a third term in 2020 after the constitution was changed to reset the presidential term limit. He had said he was not going to run again, but he changed his position following the death of his hand-picked successor, Prime Minister Amadou Gon Coulibaly.
Oui, je suis candidat parce que
Yes, I am running because our country's constitution allows me to serve another term and my health permits it. I am running because our country is facing unprecedented security, economic and monetary challenges that require experience to manage.
et monétaire sans précédent.
Critics of Ouattara accuse him of tightening his grip on power and strongly oppose his running again. The opposition has accused the authorities of targeting their opponents by legal means, but the government insists the judiciary acts independently. The two main opposition parties have launched a joint campaign to demand the reinstatement of their barred leaders ahead of the presidential election. This alliance brings together the African People's Party of Ivory Coast, PPACI, led by former President Laurent Gbagbo, and the Democratic Party of Ivory Coast, PDCI, the country's largest opposition force, headed by former international banker Tidjane Thiam. Ouattara's most prominent rival, Thiam, was barred from running by a court on the grounds that he was still a French citizen at the time he declared his candidacy, even though he later renounced his French nationality. Ivorian law bans dual nationals from running for president. Ivorians in the nation's financial capital of Abidjan shared their views on President Alassane Ouattara's announcement that he wants to run for a fourth term.
In any case, they're all old already. So if he wants to run for office too, he's human. As long as he can, he'll run. It's the people who vote. It's the people who will decide who will win. It's just that it happens on good terms, so that everyone is at peace and the country is peaceful. We do everything transparently.
In any case, if he is a candidate, I like it because you see, he has developed our country. Everything is going well, peaceful. He has put forward his candidacy, so we will see. We don't want any arguments in our country. We want peace, solidarity. We are together, in fact.
Some previous elections in Ivory Coast have been fraught with tension and violence. When Ouattara announced his third-term bid, several people were killed in the ensuing violence. There have been protests against the court's decision to bar Tian from contesting the election. Ouattara is the latest among a growing number of leaders in West Africa who remain in power after changing the constitutional term limit. Coup leaders in the region have used alleged corruption within democratic governments and electoral changes as a pretext to seize power, leading to a split in the regional bloc, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One.
The United Nations has demanded a thorough investigation after 2 days of unrest and looting in Angola during a protest against a fuel price hike killed 30 people. Violence erupted on the first day of a strike called by taxi drivers to protest against the July 1st increase in fuel costs in the oil-rich nation where millions live in poverty. It was some of the worst unrest in several years in the Portuguese-speaking Southern African country. Here's a report from Luanda.
On the 27th of July, over 2,000 Angolans took to the streets in what was meant to be a peaceful protest denouncing rising fuel prices and transport costs. They held up placards against the government of President João Lourenço.
I came to show solidarity with the Angolan people. The people are suffering, so we have to demonstrate and show our support. You see, the cost of living keeps rising, and we don't know what it will be like in a few days' time.
But in an instant, the demonstrations changed into a war zone as security forces pounced on the protesters. Some demonstrators lit bonfires as they were involved in a brawl with the police. Dozens of shops and warehouses in Luanda were looted, and vehicles attacked as the strike descended into some of the worst violence in the oil-rich country in years. The unrest spread to several provinces, and police said they had confirmed 30 deaths, including of a police officer, with more than 270 people injured, among them 10 members of the defense and security forces. The police did not say what caused the deaths, but civil society groups and opposition parties blamed the security forces, who are regularly accused of using excessive force against demonstrators. Angolan President João Lourenço was to later praise security forces for quelling unrest that claimed 30 lives over 2 days, but rights groups accused them of killing defenseless people.
Obviously, the police acted within the scope of their duties, which is why order was quickly restored. Life has returned to normal, but the consequences of the actions perpetrated by irresponsible citizens, manipulated by anti-patriotic national and foreign organizations through social media. We would like to thank the forces of law and order, the judicial authorities, the health professionals who immediately attended to the injured in our hospitals to save lives.
Lorenzo, from the MPLA party in power since independence from Portugal in 1975, made no mention of the July 1st hike in heavily subsidized fuel prices that has led to a series of demonstrations in a country with a high level of poverty despite its vast oil wealth. The United Nations demanded a thorough investigation after 2 days of unrest and looting.
A situação poderá piorar porque
the situation could worsen because the president is turning a deaf ear, despising the people, adopting a belligerent attitude towards his own people, being too arrogant, and no one has reacted. As a result, as the days go by, the population could become increasingly rebellious.
The government's move to lower its heavy fuel subsidies reportedly followed International Monetary Fund calls for more public money to be spent on health and education. But it has angered many in the country of 36 million people, already under pressure from inflation of around 20% and an unemployment rate of nearly 30%. Africa Bureau, WION World is one.
Conflict between the Ethiopian army and rebels in the country's most populated region is having devastating consequences on civilians, and that's according to the International Committee of the Red Cross. Africa's second most populous country, home to some 130 million inhabitants, is being torn apart by several armed conflicts. While Ethiopia signed a peace deal to end a deadly war between federal and regional forces in northern Tigray in 2022, conflicts continue to roil the sprawling nation, especially in Oromia region. Here's a report.
In Ethiopia's conflict-affected Oromia region, residents of remote villages like Armagunfi are slowly regaining access to healthcare after nearly 2 years of disruption. But the scars of war remain. The Gunfi Primary Health Center, which serves communities in the West Welaga zone, was closed for nearly 23 months due to insecurity. During that time, residents relied on makeshift solutions, including donkey carts, to transport pregnant women to the nearest functioning hospital.
The health center had been out of operation for a year and 11 months due to the conflict in the area, and as a result, local people have developed many health problems. We have been sending as many pregnant women to the Begi hospital as possible, using donkey carts to save their lives.
The conflict between federal forces and the Oromo Liberation Army has displaced hundreds of thousands and left many communities cut off from basic services. While the war in Tigray ended with a peace deal in 2022, violence in Oromia has persisted, drawing less international attention. At the reopened clinic, expectant mothers now wait for checkups, though medicine remains in short supply. Patients like Asiya Abdella say the return of services has already saved lives. Nearby, Begi Hospital, located less than 10 kilometers from Gunfi, is also recovering. Its director, Dr. Ephraim Tamiru, said much of the facility's equipment was destroyed during the conflict, and transporting medicine remains a challenge due to ongoing insecurity.
In the last 2 years, although our hospital staff were highly motivated, it was difficult to provide health services properly as many of the medical equipment in the hospital was destroyed due to the conflict. Our district is located more than 700 kilometers away from the capital, so transporting medicine was very difficult due to security issues along the road.
The International Committee of the Red Cross has been supporting health facilities in the region, providing medical supplies, training, and logistical support. From January to June 2025, the ICRC says it supported 20 health facilities in Oromia, helping provide care to over 100,000 patients, including nearly 1,000 safe deliveries and treatment for hundreds of wounded civilians.
The conflict in Oromia has deeply affected people's daily lives in West Welega, a community which was known for their thriving markets and fertile farmlands. Today they are suffering in terms of their basic access to services, their own life and personal integrity. At the same time, the conflict has also ravaged existing infrastructure, be it schools, health facilities, water points, increasing the humanitarian consequences for communities that are stranded between both sides of the conflict.
Africa's second most populous country, home to some 130 million inhabitants, is being torn apart by several armed conflicts. Oromia, which surrounds the capital Addis Ababa, has seen clashes since 2018 between federal forces and the Oromo Liberation Army, with peace talks failing to yield progress. Authorities have classified the Oromo Liberation Army as a terrorist organization, but it claims to be fighting for the rights of the region's approximately 40 million inhabitants. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
Now, church in Nigeria is uniting parishioners who are deaf, mute, or living with hearing impairment by offering services in sign language. The Christian Mission for the Deaf Church offers sermons, sign language tuition, and social events for a community that is often ignored or feared by Nigerian society.
To the beat of drums, the congregation at this Lagos church are worshiping using sign language. This is a branch of the Christian Mission, a church for deaf and mute people in Somolu, a mixed-income suburb in Nigeria's largest city.
Before, I was attending a hearing church with my family when I was a child. I did not understand what they were saying, so I would just sit down there. I did not understand anything they were saying because I am deaf.
Remy Akinremi is one of the pastors of the church. Every Sunday, he mounts the pulpit with charismatic energy to preach to the dozens in the congregation. His big frame makes for a commanding presence on the altar as he preaches. In African societies, the perception of people with disabilities is influenced by traditional beliefs, sometimes as a divine punishment. Analysts have long regarded Nigeria as a non-inclusive society where there is no systemic infrastructure for people living with disabilities, despite a few existing legislations, such as the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Act, passed in 2019.
African society believed that deafness or blindness or any disability was a curse, so they took people to churches or fetish priests looking for a miracle, but it doesn't work like that. The fact we can communicate with our hands, sign language, is the miracle itself.
The church has a teaching unit for sign language and also serves as a learning center, which Akinremi says is vital to help deaf people understand the world better.
It is not just about the matter of importance of the church socially, it is a matter of us knowing Christ and be able to communicate with God in sign language because God understands all language. There is no language that God does not understand. He understands even our sign too.
The church started in 1956 in colonial Nigeria as the Christian Mission for Deaf Africans. Today, the Nigerian National Association of the Deaf estimates that around 9.5 million people out of the country's 232 million strong population are deaf or living with hearing impairment. Members of the church say it has gone beyond just a religious gathering for the minority group. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One.
In late May this year, Takugama announced the closure of its doors to the public in protest of the rapid loss of forest cover in Sierra Leone's western area peninsula. The sanctuary, home to over 100 rescued chimpanzees, has been a beacon of regional conservation efforts since its founding in 1995. The sanctuary's protest has brought renewed attention to Sierra Leone's struggle with deforestation.
As the sun rises over the lush hills surrounding Freetown, an unusual silence hangs over the Takugama chimpanzee sanctuary. The playful hoots and calls of its resident chimpanzees still echo through the trees, but the once bustling paths toward West Africa's largest rescue center are barren and still. In late May, Takugama announced the closure of its doors to the public in protest of the rapid loss of forest cover in Sierra Leone's western area peninsula. The sanctuary, home to over 100 rescued chimpanzees, has been a beacon of regional conservation efforts since its founding in 1995. Bala Amarasekaran has spent 3 decades building the sanctuary and a life around orphaned chimpanzees he calls family. What began with the rescue of a single malnourished chimp tied to a tree grew into a lifelong mission to protect one of humanity's closest relatives.
Takugama is addressing the symptom to the problem. We are rescuing chimps. You need to look at why they are being rescued, what is happening to them in the wild, why they are being killed, why they are being poached, why their habitat is going, why their homes are going. And if we don't address those issues, we are only looking after the symptom. We are not really looking at the root cause of the problem.
The sanctuary's protest has brought renewed attention to Sierra Leone's struggle with deforestation. From 2001 to 2024, the country has lost approximately 2.17 million hectares of forest, amounting to about 39% of its 2,000 tree cover, according to Global Forest Watch. Freetown's western area peninsula, an area home to both Sugarloaf and Takugama, has lost about 23% of its tree cover between 2001 and 2024. Roughly 10,200 hectares of forest. The nearby Guma Dam, drawing from mountain streams and forested catchments, provides about 83 million liters of water daily to Freetown's million-plus residents.
It's a serious problem, it's an existential problem. We regret that the Takugama authorities have taken the step that they have taken to shut down here, but it's one that we understand, and we share the outrage in the invasion by some of our compatriots into those lands in a way that threatens all of us.
The consequences of rapid deforestation were made evident in August 2017, when a mudslide on the slopes of Sugarloaf Mountain, not far from the Takugama Sanctuary, killed more than 1,000 people. Researchers from the Geological Society of London, in a 2019 paper, blamed the tragedy on a mix of heavy rain, deforested slopes, and unchecked construction. They said tree loss had weakened the soil's ability to absorb water and hold together, worsening the mud flow.
I cannot take the risk to keep the sanctuary open for public because there are dangers associated with it. Because suppose the last year they put fire very close to the chimpanzee holding facility. That is a buffer zone. Nobody should have entered there. And if the fire started coming in last year, some of the chimps were trying to escape. And if they do, there is going to be definitely a tragedy. There will be a human-wildlife conflict. We don't know which way it will go. Maybe some chimps might get killed by people, or chimps can also attack people. So this is a place you don't tamper with.
As Takugama's closure enters its third month, the sanctuary continues to care for its chimpanzee residents behind closed doors. Amarasekaran hopes the protest will spur more robust and sustained action from authorities. Africa Bureau, WION World is one.
And that's all the buzz in Africa this week. Get in touch with us on all our social media platforms and our website and share your story from the continent with us. We'll tell it to the world. I'm Eric Njoka. Thank you for watching this week's episode of World of Africa on WION World is One. It's goodbye from me.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at WION.com.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation